In this video, you're going to learn how to accurately track your calories and macronutrients with the purpose of changing your body, whether that be build muscle or lose fat. Now you might be wondering, do I really need to track my calories and or macronutrients in order to change my body? The answer is no, you don't have to. But tracking your calories and macronutrients is going to be the most accurate and efficient way to get to your goal. The first thing you're going to need to do is figure out how many calories you need for your goal, whether that's build muscle or lose fat. I have an entire article explaining exactly how to do that, which I'll link below. If you already know how many calories you need, or you've already read the article, then this video is for you. Let's get started. You're only going to need two things in order to accurately track your calories and macronutrients. The first thing you're going to need is a food scale like I have here. I got this one on Amazon for like 10 bucks, but you can get one from pretty much anywhere. Just make sure that your food scale measures in grams. That's going to be super important, and you'll understand why in a few minutes. The second thing you're going to need is an app on your smartphone. So you could keep track of everything with a notebook and a pen, but it would just be a huge headache and it's not worth it. There are a number of really good apps out there. The one that I'm going to be showing you today is called Mike's Macros, but there are a couple other good ones like MacroFactor, MyFitnessPal, and MacroStacks. It doesn't really matter which app you choose. What we're going to discuss today is going to apply no matter which app you end up using. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is go over how to track foods that come in a package, like these Mush dark chocolate oats, which are freaking delicious, by the way. So all you're going to do is you're going to come around to the back, to the food label here, and the only things that you need to pay attention to are the calories, the fat, the carbohydrate, and the protein. Okay, so let's say you're going to eat one of these Mush dark chocolate overnight oats. You would enter the calories into your app, the fat, the carb, and the protein, and that's it. It's that simple. A lot of apps are going to have a food database. So what that means is you could actually go in the app and search for Mush dark chocolate overnight oats, and the app might already have these preloaded in. That sounds really cool in theory, but the problem is some apps like MyFitnessPal allow users to put in entries. So what that means is there might be 100 different entries for Mush dark chocolate oats, and if somebody's putting these numbers in, they might mess them up, and then what's in the app might be different from what you're actually eating. So if whatever app you're using does have a database, just make sure that whatever you're eating actually matches what's in that database. Here's what it looks like entering your food into an app. I'm using the app Mike's Macros, and again, whatever app you use might look different. I'm going to go ahead and hit log food. I'm going to go new meal. And then I'm going to put in the protein, carbs, and fat from the mush. I'm going to hit add food. And boom, there we go. It's really that simple. Again, whatever app you use is probably going to look different than this unless you use Mike's Macros, which is a great app if you want to use it. So now I'm going to show you what it looks like if you're going to search that database. So I'm going to go ahead and search Mush chocolate and see if it comes up. And there it is. Awesome. So I just saved myself the work of actually putting in the protein, carbs, and fat. You can see it's right there. And it really is that easy. So now I've just entered that food. And then I would go ahead and do that for the rest of whatever I was going to eat that day. The other thing you have to be careful of is make sure that whatever serving size you're eating is the serving size you're entering. So in this case, a serving size is one container of these Mush oats. But let's say, for example, that this said serving size 2 per container. Then if you ate this whole thing, you'd have to make sure that whatever calories, protein, and carbs that you entered was double. So this wouldn't be 220, this would be 440. But in this case, the serving size is one container, and all these numbers are for this one container. But that's just something to be careful of when you're putting in a packaged food. So here's an example of what I was just talking about. This chocolate bar has 2 servings in the entire thing. So let's say you ate this entire chocolate bar, it wouldn't be 190 calories, it would be 380 calories. So just something to be careful of. Make sure that whatever you actually eat matches whatever you're entering into your app. So next we're going to go over how to use a food scale. You're going to need to use a food scale to weigh out anything that doesn't come in a package. So there should be a few buttons on yours. Obviously it might look different than mine depending on which kind of scale you get, but there's going to be an on-off button, which is going to turn it on and off. And then there's going to be a unit button, which can change the units that the scale measures food in. So my scale can measure food in ounces, milliliters, pounds and ounces, and finally grams. So grams is what we're mainly going to be using, which I'll explain why in just a minute here. But first I want to show you how to tear out a container. So what that means is, let's say you're going to have a bowl of cereal. What you would do is you'd put your bowl on top of the scale, and now the scale shows the weight of the bowl, but you don't want that obviously because you're going to put the cereal into the bowl. So all you're going to do is you're going to tear the weight of the bowl. And what that means is there's going to be a button on here, the Z/T, that means tear on my scale. So I'm going to hit that and it's going to zero the scale out again. So now I could put the cereal into the bowl and the scale is going to read 0. Okay, so when you look on the back of a nutrition label, you're going to see two serving sizes. One is going to be a volume measurement. In this case, it's tablespoons. And the other one is going to be in grams. That's what the G in the parentheses means. And when you're measuring out a serving size of something, in this case, peanut butter, I want you to use that gram measurement instead of the tablespoon measurement. The reason is it's going to be very easy to overserve using the volume measurement. So I'm going to show you an example of that right here. So I'm going to go ahead and take my tablespoon here and I'm going to tear it out. So first I'll turn on my food scale. I'll put it on and I'm going to tear it off. Okay, and I'm going to show you what a serving size with the spoon is, and then we're going to weigh it out and see what it actually is. Okay, so there I have my 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, and let's see what the weight actually is. So it's actually 29 grams. Now, if we look on the back, 2 tablespoons is supposed to be 32 grams. So that's only 1 tablespoon, and it's just about the same weight as 2 tablespoons. So now let's say I was having oatmeal and I was putting 2 of these tablespoons into that bowl of oatmeal. I would have overestimated my calories by almost double, okay? So it's really important that you use that gram measurement and not the volume measurement, because if you're eyeballing measurements like this all day long, those calories can really add up. So it might not seem like that much, but in reality, over the course of a day, it could really add up. So make sure that you're using that gram measurement. The easiest way to measure something like peanut butter is to put your entire jar on the scale, go ahead and zero it out, and now dip your spoon into the peanut butter, and it'll say a negative measurement. So that's 39 grams, so we already know 1 serving is 32 grams. So I'm going to take a little bit out. 34, 32, perfect. So the next thing we're going to go over are foods that you have to cook, like this brown rice pasta or these steak medallions. So one thing you have to be really careful of is the serving size for things that you have to cook is going to be for a raw weight. So it's going to be the serving size before you cook it. Now, whenever you cook meat, you're going to lose about 1/3 of its weight from the cooking process. So a 6-ounce portion of meat before you cook it is going to end up only weighing about 4 ounces after you cook it. Now, it's going to be more accurate to weigh your meat first, then cook it, but you can be successful if you cook your meat and then weigh it after. Whichever method you use, you just want to be really consistent with it. So you don't want to switch back and forth between weighing your meat raw, then cooking it, and then weighing it after it's cooked. Whichever method you choose, just be consistent. And the same thing's gonna go for stuff like pasta, okay? So this 57-gram serving right here is gonna be for a raw weight, okay? So make sure you're not making that mistake when you're cooking foods. So a common question I get about tracking food is what to do if you're cooking in bulk, okay? So let's say you're gonna make this entire box of pasta and it has 6 servings in it. What I personally like to do is cook the entire box of pasta and then divide it evenly among 6 containers that are around the same size. This way you can be relatively sure that you're having a sixth of the box per serving. And it's okay if each container isn't exactly the same weight, because as long as you're eating these throughout the week, it's gonna kind of even out. Alternatively, like let's say you were gonna make, I don't know, some ziti, right? You could, and it was gonna be in one pan and you were gonna cook it for your family. You could basically make the ziti in one pan and then just divide it into 6 portions, and then you would just have one of those portions for dinner, right? It's not gonna be exactly accurate, and that's okay. As long as you're relatively consistent with tracking your food, you're gonna make progress. So another really common question I get when it comes to tracking your food is what to do when you're at a restaurant and you don't know what's being served, or you go to a family party and you don't know exactly, how many calories are in the food that's being served. I wrote an entire article on exactly how to do that, which I'll link below. So go ahead and give that a read, and that'll explain everything you need to know. The last thing I want to talk about is tracking your vegetables. So some PTs and nutritionists might disagree with me, but I don't actually have my clients track the vegetables they eat. And the reason is they're so low in calories. So for 85 grams of these frozen vegetables, it's only 25 calories. If you're having a couple servings of vegetables a day, it's not going to add up to be all that much, and there's way more benefit to eating more vegetables than less. And let's be honest, nobody is having trouble losing weight because they're eating too many vegetables. Eating vegetables is going to help give you fiber, which is going to make you feel fuller, and they're a volume food, so you can have a lot of vegetables and it's going to add some bulk to your meals, make you feel fuller, and make it a lot easier to lose weight. So I wouldn't worry about tracking your vegetables. The exception here is if you're like dousing them in a bunch of oil. So if you're cooking, a bunch of broccoli and you're using tons and tons of olive oil or coconut oil or something like that, make sure you track that oil, but I wouldn't be too worried about the vegetables that you're cooking. All right, that does it for this video. If you have any questions, leave them below, or you can shoot me an email. I'd be happy to help. Thanks so much for watching.